Let's jump right into it. Number 10. Operation Acoustic Kitty. Picture this, you're a Soviet diplomat in the 1960s, having a sensitive conversation in a park when suddenly a cat strolls up and sits nearby. Seems innocent enough, right? Wrong. That cat might have been a walking, purring surveillance device courtesy of the CIA. The agency actually spent over $20 million surgically implanting listening devices, antennas, and transmitters into cats. They literally turned house cats into furry spy gadgets. The first mission was a complete disaster, though. They released their expensive cybercat near the Soviet embassy, and it immediately got hit by a taxi. Talk about your tax dollars at work. The program was quietly shelved after that incident, but imagine explaining that budget line item to Congress. Number 9. The time the US military tried to train psychic spies. For over 2 decades, from the 1970s to 1995, the government ran something called the Stargate Project. They were dead serious about developing soldiers who could see through walls, predict the future, and gather intelligence using nothing but their minds. They called it remote viewing, and they spent $20 million training people to essentially become Professor Xavier from X-Men. One remote viewer claimed to have psychically located a Soviet submarine. Another said they could see inside foreign military bases just by concentrating really hard. The program produced thousands of pages of reports about psychic espionage missions. The kicker: when they finally evaluated the program's effectiveness, they concluded it had produced zero actionable intelligence. Zero. But hey, at least someone got paid to meditate for 20 years. Number 8. MKUltra, the CIA's attempt to create real-life Manchurian candidates. This wasn't just about interrogation techniques. They were trying to completely rewrite human consciousness. Scientists working for the agency dosed unsuspecting citizens with LSD, performed illegal medical experiments, and tried to develop techniques for complete mind control. One subproject involved giving LSD to mental patients for 77 straight days. Another tested whether they could erase someone's entire personality and rebuild it from scratch. They experimented on prisoners, psychiatric patients, and even their own employees without consent. The really disturbing part: most of the records were destroyed in 1973, so we'll never know the full extent of what they did. What we do know makes it sound like something from a dystopian nightmare, not a government program in a democratic society. Number 7. Project Blue Book's cousin that nobody talks about. While everyone knows about the Air Force's official UFO investigation, fewer people know about the Navy's parallel program studying underwater UFOs, or what they called unidentified submerged objects. Military personnel reported crafts moving underwater at impossible speeds, changing direction instantly, and emerging from the ocean without any water displacement. These weren't weather balloons or experimental aircraft. Sonar operators tracked objects moving at 200 miles per hour underwater, which is physically impossible for any known technology. The Navy collected hundreds of these reports but classified them so heavily that most people still don't know this program existed. Makes you wonder what else is swimming around down there that we're not being told about. Number 6. The Pentagon's actual, literal attempt to create supersoldiers. Between 1962 and 1973, the military ran something called Project Shad, which sounds like a rejected comic book storyline but was terrifyingly real. They exposed thousands of military personnel to chemical and biological agents to test defensive capabilities and offensive weapons. But here's where it gets really weird. They also experimented with performance enhancement drugs, sleep deprivation techniques, and sensory manipulation to create soldiers who could function beyond normal human limits. One experiment involved keeping soldiers awake for weeks while testing their combat effectiveness. Another tested whether they could enhance human reflexes using chemical compounds. They were basically trying to create Captain America, but with less ethics oversight and more potential for horrific side effects. Number 5. Operation Northwoods, which proves that sometimes the wildest conspiracy theories aren't wild enough. In 1962, the Joint Chiefs of Staff presented a plan to President Kennedy that reads like a false flag operation manual. They wanted to stage fake terrorist attacks on American citizens, hijack planes, blow up unmanned vessels, and even stage fake military funerals to justify invading Cuba. The document is completely real and was declassified in the 1990s. They seriously proposed terrorizing their own citizens to manufacture public support for a war. Kennedy rejected the plan, but the fact that military leadership thought this was a reasonable proposal is absolutely chilling. It makes you wonder what other plans got approved that we still don't know about. Number 4. The time the government tried to weaponize dolphins, and it actually worked. The Navy Marine Mammal Program started in the 1960s and is still running today, which should tell you something about how successful it's been. They trained dolphins to detect underwater mines, locate enemy divers, and even carry explosive devices. But here's the really weird part. The dolphins were incredibly good at it. They could detect objects buried in sand that human divers couldn't find, identify threats from enormous distances, and navigate in conditions where human vision was completely useless. Some of these dolphins served in the Persian Gulf War and are still classified as active military personnel. There are rumors about more aggressive applications, like dolphins trained to attack enemy divers, but those details remain classified. Either way, somewhere in the ocean right now, there are dolphins with security clearances. Number 3. Project Looking Glass, which sounds like science fiction but was deadly serious Cold War strategy. The government built a fleet of modified aircraft designed to serve as flying command centers in case of nuclear war. But these weren't just backup communication hubs. They were essentially airborne governments, equipped to run the entire country from 30,000 feet for weeks at a time. The really mind-bending part is that at least one of these aircraft was airborne 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, for over 30 years. Think about that. For 3 decades, there was always a plane in the sky with the capability to launch nuclear weapons and govern the country if Washington, D.C. got vaporized. They called it the Doomsday Plane, and it was America's backup plan for the apocalypse. The program officially ended in 1990, but similar aircraft still exist and fly classified missions today. Number 2. The Manhattan Project's forgotten cousin that was somehow even more secretive. While everyone knows about the atomic bomb development, fewer people know about the parallel biological weapons program that ran alongside it. Scientists were developing weaponized anthrax, plague, and other biological agents with the same level of urgency and secrecy as nuclear weapons. They built entire facilities dedicated to mass-producing deadly pathogens and tested delivery methods ranging from artillery shells to crop dusters. One facility could produce enough anthrax spores to kill every person on Earth several times over. The really scary part: much of this research continued after the war, and some facilities operated for decades without any civilian oversight. When they finally shut down these programs, they discovered stockpiles of biological weapons that took years to safely destroy. Number 1. Operation Paperclip, the government program that proves reality is more morally complicated than any Hollywood movie. After World War II, the US secretly recruited over 1,600 Nazi scientists, engineers, and technicians, gave them new identities, and put them to work on American military and space programs. We're not talking about minor figures here. Some of these people had used slave labor, conducted human experiments, and committed war crimes. But they knew things about rockets, chemical weapons, and advanced technology that the government desperately wanted. So they whitewashed their backgrounds, brought them to America, and pretended they were just brilliant scientists who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Many of these former Nazis ended up working on the Apollo program that put Americans on the moon. The moral complexity is staggering. American space achievements were built partly on Nazi rocket technology developed by people who had committed atrocities. It's a reminder that real history is messier and more morally ambiguous than any simple narrative about good guys and bad guys. I'll make similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.